Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from Intensive Care at Home, where we provide tailor-made solutions for long-term ventilated adults and children with tracheostomies by improving their quality of life, and where we also provide tailor-made solutions to hospitals and intensive care units to save money and resources whilst providing quality care. In the last blog I shared, is it ethical to leave long-term ventilated adults and children with tracheostomies in intensive care? You can check out last week's blog by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's blog, I want to look into antidepressants and long-term ventilation in intensive care. Anybody who has spent any considerable length of time in intensive care as a health professional, as well as patients and their families who have experienced for themselves or for their loved one to be long-term ventilated with tracheostomy, knows what I'm talking about. There comes a point when Mr. Smith becomes extremely depressed and frustrated if his third or fourth attempt to wean him off the ventilator and the tracheostomy has failed. And so does his family. Mr. Smith's wife is becoming even more anxious after her husband has had another failed attempt to come off the ventilator. Mr. Smith's family now has to spend even more time in intensive care only to watch Mr. Smith going from one debacle to another. Long-term ventilation with tracheostomy in intensive care is taking its toll on everyone, whether it be the patients, their families, the doctors and the nurses, as well as the financial budget in intensive care and in a hospital. From a health professional point of view, it's not very nice to watch Mr. Smith suffer in an environment that's not all that well prepared to look after him in his difficult circumstances. By now, Mr. Smith is depressed, and so is his family. 6, 7 or 8 weeks in ICU have taken their toll on him, his family, the health professionals, as well as the financial budget. And here's the thing. Rather at looking what's best for Mr. Smith, intensive care health professionals suggest to give Mr. Smith antidepressants instead of trying to improve his and his family's quality of life in a different environment. Antidepressants are not the answer to Mr. Smith's situation and his challenges, and yet that's what happens most of the time when health professionals in intensive care are at their wits' end. Instead of looking at a solution that works, is proven and really helps Mr. Smith, his family and the intensive care units, old trodden paths are being used before Mr. Smith can really improve his situation. The antidepressants that I've seen being used so many times when patients are long-term ventilated in intensive care with tracheostomies are not the answer to the many challenges Mr. Smith and his family are facing. Not to use a cliché here, but a solution that's outside of the box probably has more merit than you would ever think. So, what's a proven and reliable alternative? Going home is probably the best solution there is for Mr. Smith and his family, as well as for the intensive care unit. It's a win-win situation. Mr. Smith and his family can finally leave intensive care. His and his family's quality of life will be improving once he's at home. The intensive care unit can use the bed for another more acutely unwell admission, and suddenly expenses have gone from $5,000 per bed day to less than $3,000 per bed day. Imagine that. It's a win-win situation and everybody benefits. No antidepressants needed. Mr. Smith and his family will get a boost just by going home. You can trust me on this one. I have seen it over and over again. What are your thoughts? Do you think that giving antidepressants to long-term ventilated patients with tracheostomies in intensive care is the right thing to do? Leave your comments on the blog. For more information, you can contact me on 041 094 2230 or email me at patrick@intensivecareathome.com.au. That's Patrick, just with a K at the end, no C. We are also currently hiring enthusiastic and experienced intensive care nurses with critical care certificate for ventilated clients in Melbourne. We would also like to hear from you if you have a minimum of 2 years pediatric ICU experience, as we have opportunities there as well. For more information, check out our careers section, or simply contact me or hit reply to this email. You can also contact me if you want to know more about how we can help you, your intensive care unit, and your patients and families, or if you have a family member in intensive care that's long-term ventilated, you should definitely get in contact with us. Thank you for tuning into this week's blog. This is Patrick Hutzel from Intensive Care at Home, and I see you again next week in another update.